So, Simon, I think it'd be useful to chat through where we've come from.
Yeah.
I don't mean where we were born necessarily, not that far back, but I think our career experience, both of us, in our own kind of rights, and what the paths that we've trodden so far in our careers have been quite interesting. And I think we'll naturally probably come to a point where we agree on something, which I won't give away the kind of the story of the episode for now. But I started my career as a graduate straight out of uni into I'm going to say like a generalist digital marketing role. And now I'm doing something, well, I'm not going to say completely different, but my day-to-day role looks very different. However, obviously, we're sat, literally speaking, as we speak, in a digital marketing agency world. And there's been lots of chopping and changing of direction, of industry for me, but it's all led me to the point of which right now I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I've found my feet in different kind of ways with different experience. Yeah. And I know you can see some truth in that for yourself, looking at your experience. So I guess good place to start is talking through, without it sounding like an interview, and going through your CV. What roles have you done that have led you to do the role that you're doing today, which is obviously from a technical perspective, technical SEO perspective, that kind of hands-on role that we're all familiar with. So where have you been up until this point, and how has it helped you to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so similar to you, I suppose, straight out of university, I got a job at the Press Association. So I was kind of really heavily content focused, writing, proofreading, on-page stuff, getting everything out to the client ready to publish, essentially. So kind of high stakes in its own little corner of the world, making sure that the Christmas Radio Times is in good working order, because I know that's a staple of a lot of homes. So that's where I started out. I stayed there for quite a while, but I wanted to kind of branch out a little bit more into more of a generalist marketing role, like similar to what you said.
Yeah.
And I did end up doing that at another fairly niche industry, with primary care, helping out staff at primary care, basically. So that did kind of start off more content focused, but as my role kind of grew in a small business, that's always a great way for that to happen. I expanded out into all sorts of different things, like email, video, social media, so into a kind of essentially more generalist role. As a result of that, I wanted to maybe formalize that a little bit more, so I went and did my CIM certificate. And out of that, it was a really broad curriculum. It's maybe not the right word, but the technical side of things really sparked my interest, and it had been something that I'd been trying to dig into. So when I spotted an opportunity at Flaunt to dive into something a little bit more of that nature, I jumped at the chance, and I was able to persuade the guys here that
twist the arm of
exactly that that could be something I could do, because I had a real world example of just kind of off my own back, on my own learning, going away and actually having success in more of a technical side, lifting pages up in the search engine results and being able to say, this is what I've done, this is how I did it. So I suppose it comes back to what you said about it being a journey that I'm still on, but I'm a really nice part of that journey right now. So
the CIM's an interesting one. How much, looking back on it, how much value do you place on that whole experience, and then what's come of it?
A lot. I think it got me to look at things in a broader way, possibly. To explore angles that I've not thought of before. Like I said, it was a really kind of broad course, and then you're speaking to people who are in a similar position to you. Either they're in that sort of role that you're looking to get into, or they're in the same position as you. So those conversations, potentially that's one of the most important parts. It's one of the most exciting parts. Is talking to other people, about the reports that you're writing, about the exercises that you've been set to go away with, and you come back and you talk about what you found, how you did it, how other people approached it. So to me, that was one of the most valuable things, and I suppose it gave me the confidence as well to kind of formalize what I'd known and say, yeah, actually, all of this, what I've been doing, I am going in the right direction, and I do know what I'm doing. And maybe, give me the confidence to branch out and try something a bit different.
If anyone's listening then that might be considering it, I'm curious to know what led you to make that decision to go ahead with the CIM. What was that thought process? Was there a situation that people might be able to identify with that you were in at that point where you thought, right, CIM exists, what can it do for me? And then eventually you decided to go down that route. What was the main reason or reasons behind the decision to do it?
I think it's kind of what I've touched on, where maybe I just wanted to validate myself a little bit, and to help myself if I am looking for other career opportunities. Something that can definitely help you stand out, and it's something you can talk about and experience that you can act on. So I think that was quite a big part of it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense, really. I hold my hands up and say it's quite an unknown territory for me as to why you would necessarily do it, and I can see the standing out. Hopefully, it'd be an asset to allow you, or a vehicle to allow you to kind of stand out amongst that. Was the experience that you'd had before that, the press association, etc. experience, did that help you during those studies, or were they two kind of separate things? Did the fact that you came from real world experience to tackle the CIM type studies, did that help?
I think it definitely helped. I think it's something that you would probably. I mean, you'd have to have a real interest in that. I suppose it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, I think.
Yeah, it's the only reason why I ask is for people who don't know where they're at in their career. There's kind of no rhyme or reason to you can't listen to someone else's story and think that's the path that I'm going to go on, because there's two people talking here on this episode and we've both done different things, but both have similarities in that we've moved around a bit and tried this, tried that, and then got to a point. And as you say, you're still on that journey. It might change again. But I think the key kind of message from my side of things that when we've chatted before this episode and during this episode is there's no right or wrong. There's no age, for example, where you need to be secure in a career that will last you until the day that you retire. Things change, and there's no rule book. And I don't know if you agree, but I think I feel more comfortable in that's the kind of working age of people now. The age of the age that we're in from a career perspective is more accepting of the chopping and changing. I think job hopping, if we call it that, was I felt like it was frowned upon a bit more than it probably is now. Do you see that? Do you agree with that?
I think there's an element of that. I think from that kind of recruitment perspective, if you do look at someone and say, oh, they've not lasted long, if it's kind of potentially excessive, but then I suppose if CV really stands out, even despite that, then that's what conversations are for. And I always think that sort of interview situation should be a conversation. It shouldn't just be bam 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 questions, because it's not the best way to get the gist of someone, I suppose. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
So I guess having been more generalist and then narrowing the field to what you're doing now, do you see a lot of value in that experience that you had across the generalist kind of approach to get you to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I always felt like I didn't really have a niche for myself. Like I say, the kind of the writing and the proofreading and all this sort of things, I've always been in fairly unconventional roles. I felt like that nothing that kind of felt like a career, I suppose, in some sense, is a kind of a career path, I suppose. So that kind of touches back on why I wanted to do the CIM, to have something more concrete. And I think, they'll validate it from that, from finding something that I did enjoy, and then going into this technical, and to loop around actually to answer your question. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's one thing looking at a technical task and executing it from a purely technical perspective. But when you've got experience from other fields and you can think about, especially in my kind of case, like managing a website, essentially, you can see several different sides of it. So you can see what the content team might want to prioritize. You can see what the customer might want to prioritize, and you can understand from a technical perspective what the priorities are. So if you can kind of have that oversight and juggle all of those, and have the vision to actually execute that, then it's a huge win. It's really, really, really important. And I think all of that journey, perhaps, where I felt a little bit unsure, I wasn't sure where my path was taking to me. It's nice to kind of feel like actually that journey, even though sometimes I was very unsure. I wondered, maybe I've taken wrong paths at some points, but it led me to somewhere now where I'm really enjoying myself, really enjoying my work. And it kind of feels like, yeah, you can do it, even if it's not, even if you feel that, what am I doing sometimes? All of that can be a bridge to being somewhere that you can really kind of find the best of yourself.
In terms of advice then for anyone who might be feeling like you were feeling, what would you obviously you might advise them to do exactly the same thing as you've done, or is there any more advice really to those people that you've lived and learned through, who might have been feeling at the same point in their career as you were doing previously? Have you got any advice for people like that?
Yeah, I would say just don't give up. I'd say, like what I was trying to say earlier, but, try and find your niche, find something that you're really interested in, try different things. That's what I did. I didn't go into to do a qualification thinking I would, be the most excited about the technical side. That's just how things ended up. And then, it was a really positive move for me. So, you can't control everything. You can't predict what's going to happen. You can just keep pushing on. And even if it sometimes feels like you don't know what you're doing, or you don't know where you're going, maybe you don't at that moment in time. But I do believe that, if you keep believing in yourself, then you'll come good.